I'm Eric Smith. I'm a state representative in the state of Kansas. This is my fourth term, in the middle of my fourth term, one more year in that term. Been working on Convention of States since about 2014, learning about it and then going to the legislature and talking to them about it, trying to get them educated on it, and then finally having a chance to get in the legislature myself and be a yes vote. So this is the next step, isn't it? This is why I got involved. We got to figure out how this is going to look. Probably one of the biggest naysayer arguments is that we don't know how this will work, and we can't guarantee that it's going to work the way you say it's going to. So those of us who are proponents of this idea believe that it's like any other process that happens out there. The idea that it somehow will become something evil or a runaway convention or something along those lines is just, that's not possible. And when you come and you attend and you watch what people are saying, you see how they're conducting themselves, I mean, we're all very well aware of that argument, and nobody is suggesting it. And that's what we knew would happen. So yeah, I wanted to be here. I wanted to take a look at that. I wanted to see how that was all going to go down. And I thought it was pretty good. Well, you know, one of the things that I think, and I actually addressed it with the body out there, was the idea that what folks are really interested in are, yeah, policy. They want to see what our policies are going to be. But I think more importantly right now, because of all of the things that they've heard about this, is what do your processes look like, right? And how are those going to be impacted by different ideologies and such? We had the opportunity to get together in committee and kind of focus on the likely topics that we'd have to discuss, and we tried to shove a lot into one day. As the chair said, he said, you know, we're trying to put 70 pounds of flour in a 3-pound bag, and that's exactly what it feels like. You know, we just don't have time to vet it out completely in the simulation. But again, that's not the point of this, right? The point is to start working on the processes, see what kind of hurdles you're going to run into, and you know, keep in mind that folks are going to disagree with you. You think that you come into this with a bunch of folks who are like-minded. Even during an actual convention, there will be more folks who will disagree with you. So it's good to see how that works out here. We learn lessons from what we see on the floor and in debate, and we'll take it to the next step. I think the whole thing's amazing. I really do. And I think, you know, maybe I'm a nerd. I get that, and I often profess to folks I'm a history nerd, right? So to see that thing that was created by our founding fathers and not yet used, and to actually see it start to bloom a little bit, and thinking about all that, is it a surprise? It's more of an epiphany, right? Yes, this is what it's going to look like, and it's okay, you know. And I don't want to oversell that part, but it does seem that it's very important that we got a little bit of what we expected and a little bit of what we didn't. Big surprises, none. So being in Colonial Williamsburg, right? So yeah, being that history buff, that history nerd, whatever you want to call me, yeah, it means something. You know, you're walking down the streets, you're seeing those cobblestones, you're seeing those shells on the side, that culture that would have existed, at least in some part back in that time. Yeah, you can't help but kind of be nostalgic about it and wonder, you know, did our founding fathers ever expect that 200 and some years later we would be doing this with that memory of all that happening? So yeah, I think my favorite moment of the convention would have been my delegation. We weren't guys who hang out a lot together, so coming into it and wondering how that chemistry is going to work, I think it's great to see that, because even within your own delegation, never mind what you do with all the other folks that don't know you, but you've got to have some method of communication. So I suppose my favorite moment was when I realized that we were all okay with how we were handling business. You realize that each of us are battling the same battles. And so you get into a bit of a rhythm, and I was glad to see that. I was the chair for our delegation this time, and to have those guys work with me and understand what my hurdles were. I guess I know people would expect something different, but that's probably my favorite part of it. Yeah. Do I think it's time for us to bring on the Convention of States in actuality under Article 5 and follow the rules? Yes, I do. Now that being said, I know that it's going to have to be brought up by the proper numbers of states, and we're getting there. Kansas is struggling a little bit to get to there, but we are going to end up doing this. I know that we are, finally. And I do. I think it's time. I think we've put this out here just for a recurring education to folks that it can be done. I don't think there's any doubt by any of us that were here that it would happen, that it could happen. And then, you know, this is the way history goes. It doesn't happen quickly in 45 minutes with commercial breaks. We are going to have to meet this thing out. And so even once we get started, once it starts, we're not talking about 6 weeks and we're done. That's not likely to happen. This is going to be a long process. And the folks know it's going to be. We spent a day and a half doing something that probably would take well over 2 months to do normally. So yes, we got policy out there. It's more or less just symbolic policy. There's no way that we could vet what was actually put into it, and likely it would look a little different or a lot different actually done. So I think we all realize that, and maybe that's what you would wait on. We don't need to wait anymore. We know that these are the things. We were able to pass 6 pieces of legislation or policy simply because we all do have a like mind about what's going on and what could be fixed. It's not the fix-all, but we do have several items that we know can fix some things, and so I think we're ready to do it. I think if you're actually interested in whether or not this process will work, if you're actually interested in finding progress through a process like this, yeah, I think this helps you. I think if you're just trying to move to a different process, something that's maybe more violent, more dynamic, you're not going to be convinced by anything we have to show you. So, do I think it declares that the naysayers are wrong? I don't know that it's that simple, but at least it gives them some idea that we are trying and we are addressing their concerns, and those arguments that they want to bring out and they want to say will stop the process. We have put out an example that it won't. That's what it's good for. Absolutely. I told you that I got involved in 2014. I was just a citizen out there listening to a radio talk show host. He brings up the idea. I'm on patrol late at night and I hear this idea and I'm like, what? I bring it up to another person. They said, well, if that were true, we would have already done that. And so that was kind of the thought process. That person is now the grassroots coordinator for Kansas. It became this thing for us. I think once you get involved and you start seeing the processes and the people involved, it becomes a no-brainer. It becomes that thing of, yeah, that's what this was for. They really had something that would work in mind. You have to get involved though. You're going to distrust the process. I talked to folks that were here to see. I mean, they were participating just to see, does this work? And I think that helped them today and yesterday to see those processes are just the same kind of processes you go through in your legislatures, Congress, etc. They're no different. So.
It can be done. It will be effective.
So I think there are people who've never even heard of it that are going to see this and be impressed, and I think that builds enthusiasm.
This is the defining moment and the last opportunity to get our republic right.
We need a solution as big as the problem.